Hey guys, so in this session we're looking at filtering. So this is quite going to be a little bit slightly complicated. Try my possible best to explain this as possible. So when you talk about filtering arrays, this is basically getting some elements out of an existing array and then creating a new array out of those items that you're trying to filter, right? This is called filtering. So basically, the way this works in NumPy is that you filter an array using a Boolean index list. I'll explain practically, right? So a Boolean index list is a list of Booleans corresponding to the index of the array, right? So I'm just going to create a list here called car. I don't know. I don't want to save myself from typing. Let me just say age equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So I'll create bool, a Boolean list uh, equal to um, true, false, true, and false. So the way this works is that, like I said, a Boolean index list is a list of Booleans corresponding to the index of the array. But the way this works is that this is going to correspond, this index is going to correspond to this index here. And this index is going to correspond to this index here. And this index is going to correspond to this index. And this likewise for this. So this basically means 1 is true and 2 is false. And 3 is what? True. And 4 um, is is false. So the thing is, if the value at an index is true, right? So let's say this one is true, right? If the value at an index is true, that element, which is one, this is one here, is going to be contained in the array that we're trying to filter. But if the value at the index is false, which is 2, yeah, and this is false, right? That element is going to be excluded, which is going to be removed from the filtered array, right? So without no further ado, looking at this, let's look at a perfect example. So I'll declare here saying r, right? R equals to np dot array, and I'll say for 41. I'll say let me just go simple run just 3, 4, 5. Four numbers here, right? And then we have a list, right, of let's call this bool. This is a keyword, so let me just call it bully, so it doesn't cause obstruction with the Python keyword bool. So we create a list of true booleans actually. The booleans are basically true and false, right? We've gone through this data type previously in our previous lecture. So what happens here is we're going to perform a filter now, and I'm going to show you this on how this works using the both of this. Right, this is one, and one is true, so it corresponds to the index of whatever is fixed here. Two becomes false, three is true, and four is true. Four is false. Sorry about that. So how do we filter these stuffs, right? So I'm going to say print. I'll say r, and then as an index, right, I'm going to pass bully inside of this as an index, bully, right? And when I print this, let's see what happens. It returns to us only 1 and 3. So using this, which is 1 corresponds to the index of true and 3 corresponds to the index of 3. Using this, we can filter an array using this method. So if this is clear, this is just basically filtered the whole of this, right? Excluded the ones that are false, which is 4 and 2, and then included the ones which are true, which is 1 and 3. 1 and 3 corresponding to the index of these booleans here, right? So that is how it works, right? So what we're going to be doing is we're going to create a filter array that will return only values that are higher than 4, or yeah, only values that are higher than 3. Should I use that? Only values that are higher than 3. Yeah, okay. So let's create taxes to actually filter the array to return values that are higher than 3, right? So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to create I'll just get rid of this guy. So I'm going to create a variable called um I'll call this value higher. It's going to be real long, higher than underscore 3 equals to an empty list. I'll get rid of this. And then the first thing we want to do is loop through the array here. We have to go through each of the elements. So we say for I in R, right? And then we want to check if the element is higher than 42. We want to set the value of the index to true. Otherwise, if it's not greater than sorry, that was that was the tag, sorry, that was a mistake in on my end. If the element is higher than 3, not equal to 42, sorry, keep misusing words. So if any of these elements, right, is higher, is greater than um 3, we want to set the value, right, of that index to true. Otherwise, we want to do what? We want to set it to false. So inside of here, we say if uh, I is greater than 3, right? We want to say filter, uh, sorry, values higher than 3, values underscore higher than 3. It's values dot higher than 3 dot append, right? What are we trying to append? Remember, if I is greater than 3, if I is greater than 3, we want to set the value here to be true. So it comes here and it check, okay, is this greater than 3? It checks the first index, remember, is this greater than 3, right? If it's not, set it to false. If it is, set it to true, right? Is that, if that was clear? So what we'll do is basically um, set this to true, right? And then we'll declare an else keyword, X statement saying values higher than, sorry, values higher than 3. And then we want to set this to false. So this is basically the logic to perform all of this. So when this happens, let's print out first of all, before we even perform the main filtering, we've now actually performed the main filtering here. So let's just print out values higher than 3 as soon as this finish um, performing the its own operation. So list object is not callable. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake. I was supposed to add dot append. So that was what caused that error. Uh, okay, yeah. So we have false, 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 and true, right? So we just created a Boolean list with their own corresponding indexes. So when it went for, it checks here, okay, if I, it loops through the individual items and said, okay, if I is greater than 3, is 1 greater than 3? No, 1 is not greater than 3. He attached false to this, appends false to this array, which is making it at index 1 here, which is 0, it's false. It moves again to 2 and then says is if I is greater than 3, which is basically is 2 greater than 2. Nah, 2 is not greater than 2, right? So this doesn't run, this runs. So it appends false at index 1, which basically means 2 is false. And then it moves to the next item and says if 3 is greater than 3, obviously 3 is not greater than 3, but 3 is equal to 3, but we're not looking for that um, now. We're just checking if it's greater than 3 is not greater than 3, but 3 is equal to 3. So it comes here and then assigns false to this index here, which is holding at index 0, 1, 2 and 0, 1, 2 false. And then it comes to the last item here, which is 4. And then it says, is 4 greater than 3? Of course, 4 is greater than 3. And then he assigns, he appends through to this list here, making this of index 3. And if you come here 0, 1, 2, 3, it's returns to us true inside of the list. So basically, we have not performed the filtering now. So let's see how to be now perform this filtering. So all we need to do is I'll call this filtered array equal to, remember how we did it the previous way. We're going to call the name of this R, right? R, pass the index of these values higher than 3. So I'll just copy this and paste this here. I'll take this up, right? And then I'll print filtered array. So at this point, do a CLS, and then if I run this, we just have 4 instead of our array now. So we've just filtered 4 out of this array. We filtered uh, the numbers or the items that are higher than 3 and exclude the rest of the items that are not higher than 3. So this is how to perform filtering. Um, this is basically how to perform filtering uh, in NumPy. Yeah. So okay. So one more thing we need to know is that there's an easier way to get this done because I'm more like I told you earlier on in Python, we keep code clean and keep code simple and concise. Concise. This is basically following the PEP 8. You go check this out. PEP 8 guideline. PEP 8. Yeah, guideline for Python. So to actually perform this whole operation, right, in a simple way, like in just few lines of code, what we could just do is, yeah, get rid of this, all of this. So we're trying to filter the array to return values that are higher than 3. What we need to do to in order to a more easier simple syntax, of say filtered um, array. No, I should call this filter array. I should call this filter condition. Yeah, okay, we'll create a condition on what we want to filter this array on. So the condition is r greater than 3. This is the condition. Just check if r if any of these items inside of here is greater than 3, right? And this will return false. This condition here is going to return false for if any of the condition does not equate 3. But if it's equate 3, it's going to return to us um, it's going to return to us true. So remember this R is a list. So this is kind of like taking this guy, just putting sorry an arrow, sorry, an array. It's kind of like an array. It's kind of like doing this, right? So this is a numpy array, and then you just call this arrow here and say that this is also simpler syntax. Watch what happens when I print out filter our filter condition. So filter condition, and if I run this, we have false, 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 true, right? It just basically does what previously what we are doing previously, but that previously we were doing the for loops ourselves, we were looping ourselves, right? But this will help us just run through the loops and then check if one is greater than 3. If one is not greater than 3, it creates an array and then assigns false to it, right? If 2 is not greater than 3, it does the same thing like that. So what we need to do now is I'll create another variable called filtered array, and equal to this I'll say array and index of, so that it's going to match the index of our filtered condition, and I'll print out filtered filtered array as well so we can see the output for ourselves, and then it returns 4. So this is a more simpler, shorter, concise method of performing a filter on 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 NumPy array. So this is it, guys. Thank you very much. Good night.